My name is Moshe. Today's the 3rd of May. It's about 7:50 in the morning here in Israel. It's 70 degrees, 82 high, sunny. They're still forecasting rain for, today they're giving us a 30% chance of rain, 35% chance. We'll see. Tomorrow, 55%. And that's it. We'll see what happens. I don't know if we're really going to get rain or not. We'll find out. I can't tell you. Might be some sprinkles. I got the mommy dog out. I gotta be alert. Well, the window's open. I'll hear the rain and get her. She's got places she goes to hide from the rain anyway, so I can get her. Ah, so what we're going to talk about today is everybody's cooking up for that war resume in Iran. The Iranians, the Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, um, UAE, Oman, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, America, Israel. Everybody's ready for it to crank up again, and it will. It will. It's going to happen soon. It's not going to take a long time. We're going to go through a lot of things. We're going to discuss what is the oil crisis now in the world. There's going to be a nice list, a big list of countries that it's affecting. And we're going to talk about, what Iran's moves are. Trump rejected their latest proposal. And, you need to understand that, like I told you several times, that there's very likely, possibly, can be interruptions in this. That's all. But it doesn't mean it's over. There's nobody saying it's over. I mean, Iran's not saying it's over. Israel's not saying it's over. America, nobody's saying it's over. So why do you think it's over? And then we're going to discuss this thing with the 60 days in Congress and how Trump intends to get out of it. And we're going to go into what that, what it really means and what it doesn't mean and what Trump could do and what Trump can't do. And, we'll get into it, okay? Bottom line, he can do certain things. There's certain things he can't do. He can't go take 450,000 soldiers and start bringing them over here to invade Iran. That he can't do. But could he go out and do airstrikes? Yeah, that he can do. So we're gonna get into that. All right, I'm gonna go to the live stream while people are coming in and make sure everything's okay. Put a quick post up, and we'll get going. And we're also gonna cover the keys to the kingdom in the Bible, the binding and the loosing, and the tossing of devils, and we're going to get into that stuff today too. Okay? I'm going to do it towards the end of the broadcast. Looks like we got plenty of sound and picture. This seems to be a better iPad, noticeably better to me, but again, I'm always paying attention to it. Thank you to the moderators, they help a lot. All right, I'm going to put a post up, and that's going to be a quick post, seconds I'm expecting, and then we'll get going. There's still interruptions in shipping here. Amazing that it's not bouncing back. Boats are coming in. I'm not hearing or seeing anything about the cargo vessels. I mean, they're not going through the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea, but we generally don't need any of that. They generally come to us from the Mediterranean, Atlantic Mediterranean to Israel, so we don't have any issues with that. I think everything's good. I don't have any typos. Now we pin this, and we'll go. Okay, we're looking good. People are coming. Okay. Being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise, which some people are not going to like at all. And that's, in my book, that's fine. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, so why do I say that? It's fine. Because there's always going to be people that reject God, and that's the reality of it. So why am I going to kick against the reality of it, you know? So the latest proposal by our unfriendly people in Iran was basically the same thing. You know, they wanted Trump to shut down his blockade. They would shut down their blockade. They wanted him to do other things. I think pull out of the Middle East. And I'm not sure what the other things are. And then they would set aside 30 days for negotiations, which is ridiculous. You can't negotiate with them. I don't think Trump negotiates with them. In reality, I think Trump plays games with them to buy time to move weapons and things over here. He's thousands of miles away from the theater here. So he's basically got them in a ceasefire mode now. But what we're being told, which could be true or not true, I reiterate again, it may not be true. It may be exaggerated. What we're getting is that the Iranians are building new and better missiles and drones, etc. Do we really believe that? I don't know. Are they trying to do this? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they are. They want to hit Europe. They see hitting Europe with missiles as an exodus out of this mess they're in. Okay, because the Europeans are going to sit there and they're going to do the waterworks. What are we going to do? You know? And you know what makes me think this is really going to happen is Trump pulling 5,000 soldiers out of Germany. That's the beginning of weakening NATO. Okay? There's more soldiers running around Europe. He's going to pull them out. He's saying, what the heck do I need NATO for? They don't come help me. So I help them. I spend money to help them. And then if I need help, they say, go walk, take a long walk on a short pier. What do I need this for? He's right. He's right. But you're seeing the Revelation 17 and 18, Jeremiah 50, 51. The nations are turning against America. Not so slowly anymore. They're turning. Against. Okay? This is very prophetic. Didn't used to be that way. So, what happens to Europe if Trump pulls his forces out? You think Russia and China aren't going to take advantage of that? I don't. I think they will. China's waiting for, let's call it a golden moment, when America's at her weakest. And so is Russia, and so is North Korea. Then they'll go knock on America's door and try to knock it off. But they're afraid because the damage that they would take is massive. I don't think the tactics of Russia, China, and North Korea are to live underground. Literally underground, right? Uh, I don't know what they don't. They would lose a lot of ships. They lose a lot of aircraft. They lose a lot of military. They lose a lot of infrastructure, and it would cost them trillions of dollars. So they're sitting there, juggling it and saying, what do we get out of this? Is it worth paying such a high price to get rid of America? Isn't it easier to just give the jerk his sanction money and his tariff money and just wait for him to kill himself or, destroy his own country or something like that? That's their game. But if they see an opening, they'll take it. If they see an opening for Europe, they'll take that too. Why not? Putin hates Europe because of what they did with him in Ukraine. You know, he would have loved it if they just said, "Oh yeah, Russia, go take Ukraine. It used to be yours. Go take it." And then Russia would say, "Wow, I think I should have Poland and Romania too." And then that's how it starts. You show weakness like that, and there it goes. You know, Russia's weapons are no good. Look what Ukraine's doing to them. They're burning now. Today, Russia's on fire. You know, um, what, we don't hear nothing coming out of Russia with what the people think about, Putin and what he's doing and the draft and so many dead soldiers that were drafted. And, I don't know what they think. You we don't hear about violent protests in Moscow or St. Petersburg or anything like that. All right. North Korea is just staying pretty quiet, and China's kind of in the background. They told their companies not to comply with the American sanctions, pertaining to oil and stuff like that. They directed them not to comply, so they have to listen to their own government. Okay. Uh, Axios, who gets good news frequently, is saying that they got two sources that are close to or familiar with the Iran proposal they gave Trump. There's another one they gave to Trump, I think May 1, and Trump rejected it on May 2. Today's May 3. It sets a 1 month deadline for the negotiations on an agreement aimed at reopening the Strait of Hormuz, ending the U.S. naval blockade, and permanently ending the war in Iran and Lebanon. Yeah, let's end the war, but Hezbollah has a right to have 150,000 missiles, and yeah, right, okay, sure. Yeah, we believe you, we trust you, you never break your word, you never lie, yeah, sure. According to these two sources, under the Iranian government's proposal, only after reaching such an agreement will negotiations begin for another month to try to reach an agreement on the nuclear program as well. Well, I don't know what else they're gonna, but Trump's rejecting it. He's got him where he wants him, um, because they're gonna have to shut their oil wells down soon. Okay, they might get away with it for another week or two or three, but they're gonna have to shut down, and that's gonna be a very, very serious problem for them. So they're trying to negotiate out of it, saying, "Oh, we'll negotiate for a month." That gives them a month to really work on hitting the missiles into Europe. If they can hit the UK, France, Germany, Belgium, Austria, Spain, and all these countries, Portugal, um, they're going to bring this to an end because these countries are unlikely to come and attack Iran. But because we're in the latter days, fulfillment of a prophecy in Jeremiah 49 with Elam, I think it could work out that the nations of Europe would come knock on the Iranians' door with bombs. Knock, knock, boom, Okay. Now, we need to cover this so you guys understand it, and I'll go through it as quick as I can. I researched it. Can Trump resume the Iranian war? The quick, real answer is not exactly, but he's not totally blocked from doing things aggressively to Iran. All right, now we'll explain it. Under the U.S. Constitution, Congress has the power to declare war. The president is the commander in chief of the military, and that creates a gray area in the real world. The Congress is not the commander in chief of the U.S. military. So Trump is like, I don't know, a 6-star general. He trumps or outranks everybody, including 5-star generals, which they haven't had any of those since World War II. So, maybe after a few years after World War II, they had a few hanging around. Eisenhower was one, They have very few of those guys. Okay, so that's why I said 6-star. In reality, he's not a general, he's above a general. Okay. So can a president do some things without Congress? Yes. He can order limited military strikes, like airstrikes or targeted attacks. Okay. That he could do. Limited military airstrikes. Okay. Targeted attacks, like power stations, water desalinators, buildings the generals are in. Okay, he can act in self-defense of the U.S. or its forces if they're attacked. I think he could also defend allies. That would be probably someplace else, but I believe he can. He could respond quickly to immediate threats. Well, that would probably include helping allies if they get attacked. Otherwise, but Congress approves those kind of treaties, So in a sense, Congress gives standing permission for them to bail out a ally. Okay. Because they certify these treaties or agree to them or sign off on them, whatever wording we want to use. So that means that Congress has agreed to it. but it could mean one Congress in 1992 did it, and it's binding today. But that's how this works. Um, in 2020, Trump ordered the strike that killed Qasem Soleimani without prior Congress final approval. That was one example. Okay. What he did in Iran recently is another example. Okay. What the president cannot easily do by himself is start a full-scale long-term war without Congress. He can't sustain a war without funding, and Congress controls the funding with the money. So, a long-term war would look like, hundreds of thousands of soldiers. That's not what's going on here. The aircraft carriers turn around and sail home, and the planes with the refueling tankers take off and file home, and that's the end of the war. It's not a serious, let's dig in with 500,000, 1 million soldiers, Start building bases and barracks and, communication hubs and all of that, The War Powers Resolution is the big thing. After the Vietnam War, Congress passed the War Powers Resolution in '73, right at the end of the Vietnam thing, which says the president can deploy troops without approval for up to 60 days. After that, they must get Congress approval. Notice it says deploy troops. He's doing very little troop deployment, okay? But he could be over the 60 days, but they made a point, I think Hegseth made a point of telling Congress that the war has been terminated before the 60 days. What's up? Now, so I think the game Trump is playing, oh yeah, we had a run here for a while with Iran, but we went into some peace deals that never ran for 60 days. Maybe it ran for 47 days, or I don't know how many days it ran. And, that's over with. We terminated it, and we're still here to protect our allies and protect the oil flow. Now, we're doing a blockade, and, everybody knows a blockade's not a war. Well, it is. It's doing a blockade is a declaration of war. Nobody will dispute that. Okay, so but he's skirting around the war. He's not deploying troops with the blockade, but he is, but not very many. Okay. It's important to him to get the other allies to help. Because then the heat's going to go off from Congress if they turn the heat up. Congress is not that interested in turning the heat up. Remember, the left wing's not looking for an oil crisis. The left wing is not looking for $200-300 a barrel oil prices. They're not in. They're not into that. They don't want that. Okay. I don't think you'll often hear the left wing say this, but what they would, in their demented minds, what they want to do is eliminate countries. Now, does Satan like that? Sure, because then they can't be in Israel as the head of the nations. Satan likes that. um, there, the alibi they're using to sell that to people would be, if you have no nations, you can't have any wars. Of course, it's a one ruler for the whole world. So then there would be no guns for anybody but this one world leader's military. Well, there would be no military. You wouldn't have a military. You'd have police. You know, it's ridiculous, you know. It's, you know, a pipe dream of theirs. A pipe dream means they're sitting there smoking opium and they're hallucinating, you know. I was reading somebody saying Chat GPT is hallucinating. The reality with Chat GPT and the hallucinating is this: they stopped it on the newer versions. You got to get up to 5.5, which is out already. I don't have it. Not everybody has it, but it is out. Okay. And it's more and more people are getting it. They're releasing it, is what it is. Okay. 5.5. And then they're going to have 5.6, which is even better. The Chat GPT knows how to think. So you ask it questions, and it's more economical for it to think of the answer using its background information that, you know, from its information pool, and it thinks of the answer and doesn't investigate. So it, in its mind, what appears to be a logical thought process for, you know, a AI program or an app, and it comes up with a answer, and that's what it called hallucinations, because it's frequently not correct information. And I agree. Okay. I mean, it'll answer, you know, you could ask it questions like, is this truck available with automatic transmission? And it'll tell you, yes, it is, and it isn't. Because it thinks it's normal and available for it to have automatic transmission. So they think that it would, and then it answers yes. And it saves time and money for the Chat GPT people because it doesn't access the internet and use up resources of theirs. They got a very bad reputation for this. Although it is in a lot of ways a very good AI. The new version 5.5, I understand, cleans it up a lot. And I don't know if we really know what 5.6 is going to be like yet. But they're getting rid of that problem. They realized it became a laughing stock and they got rid of it. I don't believe any of the AI programs can be as effective in finding consumer goods as Perplexity can. but it's expensive. It's $20 a month for their base model, which I went for. It does other things very good too. It's like, you're taking a Swiss Army knife and you're saying, well, you know, the best thing about this is it has a magnifying glass. Well, it has 10 or 15 other things too. So yeah, Perplexity does a lot of things, but when you send it, if you want to buy something on the internet and you got problems like they have to ship to Israel, Walmart, Amazon, eBay are not shipping to Israel, they're not worth looking at. The merchants in Israel are very expensive, find me a cheap one here or find me this, and it works the whole world. Okay? Trying to find you things, then it tries to checks the reputation of the seller. Of course, the reviews of the product get checked. Checks their shipping, checks to see if they're in stock, and all of this stuff. It's amazing, and it's so methodical in the way it goes through it. I never saw anything like this. Now, here's what it also does, and other programs do this too. Google has turned into basically a piece of crap search engine. Okay? And I'm sure the Microsoft and the Yahoo are no better. Although Google has not just the lion's share of searches, it has the massive lion's share. Over the years, there's people that make a living trying to figure out how they can get their website to come up high in the search results of Google. What is high? 80% of the people that search Google will search page 1, which has about 10 results normally, and then page 2, another 10 results, and they won't go any further. So you have 20. Now, if you were doing a search for the care and feeding of albino monkeys, 20 websites is probably more than you're ever going to find, okay? But if you were searching for running shoes, desert weather, blah, 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 or under $100 on sale, you might get 300 or 400 relevant pages, different websites, So what the good search engines do is they run these search results against each other to see if there's the same common word, if there's keyword frequency that's fooling Google, lots of things. And they get rid of the junk sites, okay? There's people that just build websites to get traffic, okay? And Google doesn't care about the quality of traffic. To Google, traffic is traffic. If you're trying to sell something, if you want to sell widgets, traffic means nothing to you. It's quality of traffic. Are you attracting your targeted audience, or are you just getting people? Now, what a lot of these idiots do is they build a website for a client and they sell the leads to the client. Or the person places an order by clicking on the search engine spammer's version of the website for the client, and then it transfers to the client's payment system. And, they both know it came from the search engine spammer. and he makes a commission. So all he cares about is not putting good content up there, not being a real seller, just doing anything he can to get people to come to the website and hope the heck they buy. But the guy's running a website for shoes and he knows precious little about shoes. He has clients that are selling, carburetors, plastic bags for garbage. They're selling everything, Google is a rotten operation on their search. They don't want people to be able to be found in this search for some time. And they want you to buy pay-per-click ads. If you study pay-per-click ads, what happens is, depending on the keyword, the price of the click, you only pay if somebody clicks on your site, on your ad. And the price that gets run up to the point where you're going to break even. So if you were selling, coated donuts in Milwaukee, I'm just making something up. You're going to have to pay so much for a click. And when you run your numbers at the end of the month, you're going to find out you probably broke even or lost money. Who made the money? Google. If they ran the search engine honestly so people could build a search engine, a website, and then Google would spider it and evaluate the website based on its value to the consumer. Can the consumer benefit by this, which is hard for Google to do? Remember, Google's searching millions every day, trillions, and it's. But this is what needs to happen: that a search engine could be started today, May 3rd, and by May 5th or 6th, Google should find it and index it, because it's got a lot of valuable, good information, but they will never do that. Never. Unless you're some Satan pot highly placed. They are only looking for factors they consider credible. Like, are you credible? Well, if you're Nike or Reebok, you're credible. You've got money, money, mammon, you're credible, right? Okay. That's one way to go. Another way to go is your site is, 9 months or 18 months old, and it has a decent amount of traffic. People are going there, must be something good about it. Been around a while. Okay, let's put them in the index, right? Now, you might appear on page 11, but at least you're in the index, right? You might appear at page 87, which means you're going to get 0.00000001 of the searches. You'll get a search, every 6 months, maybe, if that, and their criteria remains to be secret, because I'm going to ask the search engine, if I have time today, what their secret is, because not the search engine, AI, because AI could figure it out easy enough. They might say, "Oh, I can't reveal it. It's concealed information," but it can't be. It's publicly available. You just have to run an AI into it, long enough and hard enough to come up with the answers. What I'm saying is, it's publicly discernible. You see the websites that are on the first 2 pages in Google. for a certain set of keywords, right? And you just study those websites looking for certain attributes, and now you break the Google algorithm. You use it for a subset, for maybe 25 sets of different keywords, and you got the algorithm. But from my understanding is that it used to be if you had other sites linking to you, Google used to interpret that as a sign of you being a credible site. Of course, it depends who was linking to you. So what people were doing was I remember doing this myself in my free time for websites, going into uh, places that had forums and chats and stuff. And you write something like, yeah, these guys over here have a pretty good handle on running shoes and what doesn't wear out and where to go on sale. And, I find they work out pretty, they seem to try hard or whatever, whatever you want to put in. You don't lie. You can write things about yourself um, and post it with a link, and then you would have a link, you know. You create a screen name for that website, and then it's a link, and then Google spiders it. And if it's considered a valid forum, well, then you got a little click of credibility. So you go around and get on a lot of forums with running shoes. It must be hundreds. It's probably 15 or 25 big forums, um, and you get yourself plastered all over there. But I don't think Google goes for that anymore. I'm not even sure what they go by. I'd have to get help to find out. But they know they had a problem, and they still do because their search engine is completely cluttered with websites that have very bad um, credibility. They're what's called SEO, search engine optimization websites. So when you use AI as a search engine, it's light years better than anything you're ever going to see coming out of Google or the Microsoft one or the Yahoo one or any of the other ones. Okay? Much better. Because they don't go by any of those moronic SEO criteria. They scan the search engine, the website, to see if it's got SEO criteria in there. If they see it, they walk away from the search. The AI leaves it. And it could do it like that in a second, because the AI knows it's a garbage website. It's really amazing what it could do. So it opens the internet up to a whole new level. Can ChatGPT do this? Not that well, but it can. You gotta talk to it and tell it what you really want it to do, and it does it, but it doesn't do it so good. Okay? No. Perplexity is superb about that. It's built for that. It's amazing. Uh, if you were gonna say, give me, 5 good websites that will explain to me the features and benefits of using a mercury thermometer to take a baby's temperature versus a forehead thermometer or something like that, you would get real results. Where if you did Google, you would get results of people selling these thermometers. Where you would get the actual researchers and stuff like that. So I mean, you could get a lot of stuff with these, and they'll all do it. Grok will do it. ChatGPT will do it. Perplexity will do it. Poe will do it. Um, there's a lot of them that'll do it. Okay, Claude. but none of them seem to get it done as well as Perplexity. No, no. Will that change? I think within a month it will. It's not going to be that hard for the other companies to see what Perplexity did. Well, it's a big infrastructure investment, but they might not go for it. But yeah, so I'm just trying to throw this out at you guys. I'm meaning to talk about this today. You can get really good, clean, unperverted search results from any of these AIs, as long as you just get specific as what you're looking for. Say to it, I don't want SEO websites in the results. I would like to see 3 websites that discuss, now I'm not talking about shopping, I'm talking about information, that discuss information about how to sharpen a steak knife, you know, and you're going to get real information. You're not going to get some company trying to sell you steak knives, which is what you're going to get in Google. Or you could just ask it for the information and ask it for the references it gets, links to the references. It normally won't give you that, but if you ask it, it will. And then you can see the quality of the websites they're using to answer your question. Now, Perplexity gives you the link to the website they use automatically all the time. Here's the problem with Perplexity, and it's money. You pay $20 a month and you get Perplexity, and they got a free version, and the free version is gonna let you maybe do one search every 5 hours or 8. It's gonna be very limited. So you get the $20 version, and simple research, it'll do no limit, okay? But what they have a thing like deep research, but they don't tell you if your request is deep research or not. And with deep research, you're limited, and they have a concept of credits. And you got so many credits a month. And when you lose your credits, you can't do any more deep research until the next month. You can still use the system. What the system will likely do is shut you down for 3 to 5 hours, okay, because they promise you the regular searching unlimited. But they have, the AI people have an unfair usage thing that they all put up to stop people from, like, they have a little company with 8 people, and they buy one $20 account, and they put it on one computer or whatever, and then people use that for their searches, and it's being searched, it's not being searched on 3 times a day. It's being searched on 47 or 82 times a day. So they see that and they shut the thing off for a few hours, like 3 hours usually. They do things like that. But with the Perplexity knows what they got. So with the deep research, they're the best. Especially for shopping. You want to buy something. I was using it to search China, Russia, Japan, India, and some other, and the EU for devices to enhance eyesight. And it found a bunch, and it was telling me really good things. It's saying, this is a cheap imitation of this other product. I don't think it's reliable. The company's not trustworthy. I don't think their software app is very good. And, there really is nothing other than what you're going to get in America. Then I sent it in to see if it could find me lower prices for the same product, and it did. It really did, yeah. So if you're doing deep research and you run out of your time, your credits on Perplexity, you got to buy more credits. So you got to kick in like $5 or $10, and they give you a bunch more credit. But they don't tell you when you're going into deep research mode. It should warn you. If it warns you, then you could restructure it to be the standard. It doesn't do that. So if you want to get out from under these getting cut off for deep research, you got to buy their super there. I don't know what they call it, Max or something. It's $200 a month. Well, that's way too much money for something like this. So I'm not going to do that. So then you ask ChatGPT and Gemini how they can help you work with Perplexity and not have to still use Perplexity, but give a lot of the work to them so it doesn't burn up your credits at Perplexity, and they show you how to do it. Now I'm really taking it deep into this, but yeah, so Perplexity knows what they got, and they're being wise guys, and they're trying to squeeze money out of it, okay? And the reason they're doing all this is they know they don't have a long lifespan like this, because the other companies are gonna, I'm sure they're already trying to figure out how to do it, and they'll do it. And then they'll incorporate it into further releases. I think they could maybe last until the end of the summer, or even they might be finished by the 4th of July. I don't know, or even the end of May. But okay, so I put that in. Let's get back. So Trump can proceed with prosecuting a war against Iran in a limited conflict capacity or just airstrikes. Okay, and that he can get away with. Okay, so is he going to be able to blow up what he said, the power generators for electricity in Iran? Yes. Can he get away with that? Yes. Yes, he can get away with that. So he's going to do that, but I don't believe he's going to bring in, 40 warships and, hundreds of thousands of soldiers and hundreds of aircraft and, make bases. He's not going to do anything like that. Okay. Um, you got to remember he can get his funding cut off too. So he needs Congress to approve a budget. He can't just, say, oh, this is the budget. I'm Donald Trump. He can't do that. So that's why we're not seeing Trump do anything like that. And, I think it's days away till the war cranks up again. And, America could start it up again. Israel could start it up again, which I doubt. The UAE or Saudi Arabia or Qatar could start attacking Iran and start it up. Or Iran could start it up. So somebody's going to start it up. It's got, it might go 2 or 3 weeks, but it's going to go, A federal judge in America has protected Yemeni people from Yemen, refugees from Yemen, slamming Trump's administration's push to end special status. So Yemen has the Houthis, which are dangerous people, and Trump could be trying to protect America from these people, and this federal judge is trying to stop Trump from protecting America from these people. NATO spokesperson Allison Hart: we are working with the United States to understand the details of their decision regarding the American forces stationed in Germany, which Trump is pulling out. So she's basically saying she wants to know why Trump's pulling out, and he may or may not tell her truthfully, I don't know. It was just last night that Trump announced 5,000 leaving Germany, and I think that's just the beginning, you know. If Europe realizes Trump's not coming to the defense of Europe via NATO, well, then you might see some aggression against Europe and NATO. Just to show you the idiocy of the world, Iran was chosen to serve as vice president of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. How they could put Iran in a nuclear non-proliferation. Crazy. Okay. This is Trump again. Listen to this. I mean, here we go. This is Trump talking. I will be increasing tariffs on EU cars and trucks to 25% next week if they produce in the U.S. plants. There will be no tariff. So I think Mercedes has a place in New Jersey or something. So if they make the car in New Jersey, it has no tax. If they make the car in Germany and ship it over to America, it's getting 25% tax. So you got to remember, you're not only paying 25% tax from a European-made car, you're also paying the shipping costs, which is not so trivial. Okay? So what's made in Europe that's really going to be affected? Well, maybe Range Rover, but the French make Citroën and Peugeot. They're not huge sellers, but they're big enough. Fiat, that's a big seller. Volkswagen's a big seller. So you got BMW, Porsche, Mercedes, Volkswagen. You got Fiat. The British make a few cars. Yeah, you got Rolls Royce, and Bentley, and Ferrari, and Lamborghini, and Maserati, but they're tiny sales. I mean, they're nothing. Uh, the tax would be high, though, but they don't sell many cars. If you're selling a $500,000 Ferrari, now your $500, Ferrari is over $600,000. You know, you're gonna lose some sales, but most of these people don't care. Um, they're not buying it out of economical need. Russia doesn't send any cars into America. The UK does, but nothing. Like they got Aston Martin, but nothing really a big seller. Mini Cooper, Austin Mini Cooper. Nah, I don't think so. Okay. What about Europe? What are they going to say about that? Well, they're going to bust the gut. Who's going to really bust the big gut here? Germany. The same country Trump pulled 5,000 soldiers out of, right? That country? Germany? Why? This is a big industry there. Do they make good cars in Germany? They make excellent cars in Germany. What are some of their really excellent cars? Well, BMW, Mercedes, Porsche are excellent. Oh, the Volkswagen, for what it is an excellent car, right? Okay. They just went up 25% in price. They're overpriced to start with. Let's get some research on this. Watch. I don't know the exact figure of what I'm going to come up with, but I imagine it'll shock you. Okay. What is the average price in US dollars that a worker in an automobile factory in Germany earns during 2026? Estimates are fine, as long as they're based on some reality. I'm expecting a shocking number. Let's see what we get. AI will find it. Well, now it's giving me euros. I don't know why it did that. Let's read it. We could get it converted to dollars. Assembly factory level workers make 17 euros an hour. That's not so bad. I was wrong. No, this is Europe. That's not what I asked it. See, you got to really fight with AI. Let me see what it says. Hold on. No, it's not giving it to me. Let me hit it harder. Okay, let's focus on this much more specifically. I am interested only in Germany, specifically for the workers that are manufacturing BMW and Mercedes Benz and Porsche vehicles. Please give me the prices per hour or per year for such workers in US dollars. short answer, please. You've got to whip it into shape and be very specific. It wants to work with you, but you got to be very specific with it. Yearly base typical pay is $60,000 to $85,000 a year, $30 to $45 an hour. Well, that's not shocking me. Okay. There'll be people that are making $75 an hour if they're matching the leather for the seats and the interior and they're really good at it or something like that. Or they're working with fine wood or for the dashboard or I don't know. Okay, so do the American car workers make that kind of money with their unions? Yeah, they do. I thought it was going to come out much higher, but no. No. Okay, I thought it would be higher. So, if for some reason Trump is focusing on Germany, pulling the soldiers out, first from Germany, of course, and they don't remember, and now no, with the cars, he's hitting everybody in Europe. There's other companies that make, Romania makes cars, Poland makes cars, but these things are rarely, if ever, imported in. There's a car called Skoda, it's rarely brought in, Subaru, yeah, not a big seller, but it sells. But that's not. No, that's Japan. Sorry, that's not from there. Skoda, I believe, is Europe. People like that car. I don't know anything about it. I see them. Not so much in Israel. They're in other countries more so, but they're here. Okay, the U.S. Embassy in London warned Americans in the U.K. to stay alert after Britain raised its terrorism threat level to severe, second highest. So there's one more level, which is probably, bunker down or hunker down where you are, don't go out. Uh, Yemen is saying that this comes from Yemen, not the Houthis per se. They're saying an oil tanker was hijacked on Shabwa coast, headed towards Somali waters. Yemen's Coast Guard stated that the tanker's location had been identified and efforts were underway to track it, take necessary measures to recover it, and ensure the safety of the crew. So some Somalia Captain Hooks came out there to pirate the boat, and Yemen is sitting there saying, oh gosh, they're all going to blame us for this nonsense. We didn't do it. Let's go get those jerk pirates and get this ship back. I don't want to get blamed for this. That's what's going on. So they're basically sending a message to Somalia, to cut this stuff out. So they'll send Coast Guard against the pirates, which is, no match, There's no match. I saw a YouTube video. I think it was real. There was a guy that knew something about boxing, and kangaroos will box with you as a means of aggression. Like a goat will keep trying to get you with his horns. Once he starts, it's hard as heck to get him to stop. Because he figures if he stops, you're going to attack him. That's the thinking. So This kid was pretty stupid, or he was running a scam with a trained kangaroo, but I don't think he was. The kangaroo doesn't normally go after you with the mouth and bite with the teeth. He's got back feet that are pretty good size, probably 12 inches anyway, by 3 or 4 inches wide. And they have big claws, fang type claws on there. So what this guy, the kangaroo, will do is get at you with the boxing a little bit, and then when he sees his move, he'll pivot on his tail, which is probably 3 feet. It's pretty muscular, and pick his 2 feet up and hit you with his back legs, but not to punch you as much as to rake you with his claws. And you really will be in for it if that happens. These are big things that are going to rip you up, and you're going to get all kinds of risk of infection. You're going to have to get injectable antibiotics pretty quick. Um, and get the wound cleaned, and couldn't they get deep enough to get into your guts and open up your? Yes, they are known to do that. So it's a pretty dumb idea to sit there and box with these guys. But he did it, and he punched the kangaroo in the head. He gave him a good shot, like a cross, or a strong jab. I watched it, and it knocked the kangaroo's head. It didn't knock the kangaroo out. To knock the thing out, you probably have to hit him with a metal baseball bat, full swing. Even then, I'm not so sure. But he knocked the kangaroo back, and kangaroo looked at him and evaluated this, and then just ran away. Said, "Okay, I'm not going to do this." No. It's not a great idea, If you're a wild animal, you could go fight with kangaroos. But if I was going to sit there and fight with a kangaroo, if I had a samurai sword, okay, a katana, yeah, I could probably do okay with that. It would be nice for him. Or if I had a gun, 45 or something, boom, boom, goodbye kangaroo. But they'll kill you, like that. Lebanese army chief and U.S. general meet in Beirut to discuss security situation, Lebanese army says. This is all an exercise in idiocy. If the Americans want to go in and help the Lebanese army fight Hezbollah, and the Lebanese army really wants to get rid of Hezbollah, then something might happen. The Lebanese army is 60% Shiite Muslim, and they do not want to go out and kill Hezbollah. Hezbollah will kill them, will kill their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, their children, everything. Everything. They're just like Iranians, okay? They'll go kill all their families. So that doesn't work well, okay? So, like I said, if anything, the Lebanese army will wind up joining Hezbollah. But maybe not, okay? So, if they really want to get rid of Hezbollah, what Israel should do is say, okay, work with us. And we'll observe you getting rid of Hezbollah. And what would come of that? Absolutely nothing, because they have no intentions of doing it. Okay. So what are we doing now? We're burning the houses down in the south. This is Netanyahu again with his attack the real estate. Look, what would it do? It would stop the Hezbollah from moving into the houses in the south. Why would it stop it? Because there are no more houses. That's why. So how effective would that be? Well, effective to a good extent, because they can't go in and play, we're just good Lebanese citizens. Look, here's my wife and here's my children, and that isn't going to work. Okay? There's no house to move in. So it'll have some good because they hide weapons in the house. So they're not going to be able to hide weapons uh, in houses that don't exist, are they? No. That's rather hard to do, you know. Okay. China ordered companies in the country not to comply with U.S. sanctions on 5 domestic refiners linked to the Iranian oil trade, a move aimed at softening the impact of penalties. Uh, these Chinese companies aren't really that worried about sanctions from um, Trump, and I don't think they're worried about much of that. Okay. Spirit Airlines folded. It was a low price airline. You know, I mean, it wasn't that bad. The pilots didn't get on the plane wearing a leather helmet and a scarf and having a parachute on. You know, it wasn't that bad. But they went out of business. They just suddenly shut down. They were negotiating with Trump to get bailed out, and Trump decided they weren't worthy of it. And Trump may have made a good business decision here. I don't know, but we don't hear of other airlines going bankrupt. Just them. Maybe they're the first. I don't know. But aviation fuel has doubled in price in recent weeks. So they canceled all their flights, which means they had all their pilots park the planes wherever they were, and you're there's no more job. We'll settle up with you, whatever we can. I don't know what they're doing. They'll go into bankruptcy. If they go into bankruptcy, the priority payment is the back wages and the vacation pay and the sick pay they owe the people, that kind of thing. That's the priority payment first. I haven't heard if they filed bankruptcy at all. They probably usually will. Their customer service is suspended. Well, they fired them, so there is no customer service. So if you call, there's nobody to talk to. Okay. They probably got rid of 95% of their people, and they might have a small amount of people that are finishing the winding up on the clerical end of it or something. I don't know. I don't think they have any need for pilots anymore. We don't know. You know, I mean, let me explain a couple of things that could happen. It could get sold. Okay, somebody might want to buy it and resume operations, and they might say, yeah, that's the best thing. What we got now is other airlines are trying to help their passengers that got stranded. So in other words, you got people that had a ticket for May 8th or something. Well, they ain't never gonna get a chance to use it, so they're not stranded. They got to go to their credit card company and put a charge back through, but the credit card company might have nobody to charge back from anymore, and then the credit card company may not eat it. They may just tell the people they got to eat it, which is what I suspect would happen. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So the other airlines, because they don't want people getting too scared about this, are trying to help out. If another airline goes real quick, like in the month of May, people are going to get real nervous, and they're not going to want to make payments. You know? The fuel crisis is real. Let's get into some specifics. The European Union subsidizing fuel and fertilizer for some reasons in there too, up to 70%. Emergency measures across all member states of the EU. Sri Lanka, hard rationing. Cars get 15 liters a week. That's approx 4 gallons. 4 liters to a gallon. 16 liters is 4 gallons. That's a week. Motorbikes get 5 liters. How do they know that people don't go to 2 different places a week? I don't know. They might have a computer system that they put the license plate in. I have no idea. They might send them ration tickets. I don't know. Myanmar, they're doing the odd and even driving days. So if your license plate ends in a 4 or a 6 or an 8, you can drive that day. If it ends in a 3, a 5, a 7, you can't drive that day. That sort of thing. It'd be 1, 3, 5, 7, or it would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 9 would be an odd day, Okay. The Philippines. Oh, they're also giving QR codes. This is Myanmar. QR codes to track every single fuel purchase. Well, I don't know what they're doing about it, but they can track. Okay. The Philippines National Energy Emergency declares 4-day government work week. So they're knocking off 1 day. So they're probably giving them 4 10-hour days, save a certain amount of gas. Would that work? Yes. And they have they're stockpiling 2 million extra barrels. Vietnam. Fuel taxes are suspended. Citizens told to bike, carpool, or stay home. So, the tax is suspended. I don't know how much their taxes were a gallon, but the prices is up. So what the government is doing to subsidize is they're saying, okay, we'll kill the taxes we collect to offset the rising prices to some extent. This is a fairly common tactic. Bangladesh. Fuel rationing for most vehicles. I don't have the count on that though. Markets shut at 6 p.m. More blackouts planned. So they're trying to kill nighttime driving, stuff like that. Indonesia, LPG, import duties scrapped for 6 months, 50 liter per day cap per vehicle. Well, that's not so bad. That's 50 liter divided by 4. You got 12 and a half gallons of gas a day. That's not that bad. LPG, I believe, is liquid propane gas. India, now that's a rather large country, I would say. Petrol and diesel taxes slashed, that means reduced. Cost is costing the government of India 70 billion rupees every 2 weeks. And if you ask me how much a rupee is, I have no idea. It's not a lot, but I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Okay, Japan. Burning through emergency reserves. just to stabilize prices, bill hitting uh, 30 billion yen a month, 300 billion yen a month. The yen is pretty low, like 50,000 yen is about $400, something like that. You know, it's pretty bad currency. Look, the Japanese are they're still kind of isolationist. They sell cars and things like that. They learned how to be business people after World War II. They started with transistor radios. They made a lot of money on that. At the same time, they were doing watches. They were making cheap watches. At the same time, they were doing Nikon and Canon cameras. There were others they were doing too. They had very high quality lenses. They were giving the people a lens as good as the German Zeiss lenses or the high-end German cameras, Hasselblad and stuff like that. They were coming up with that grade lens in cheap cameras. To get established, they were making radios like the pack of cigarettes. I had one, I remember, it was called the Tarleton, which was some junky name, Tarleton. It had a 9-volt battery in there. That would last me for a few days. And it had a little round, you know, the size of a nickel dial with serrations, and it would stick out over the side of the radio, and you could change the dial. It was just an AM radio. I was a kid. I was listening to the music, or you could listen to ball games, which I never really did, or the news or whatever. It had a speaker in it, and it probably cost about $9 or $10. And it didn't have any tubes. It was transistor printed circuit, where the older radios had a chassis with tubes stuck in it. You know, they weren't. It was called a chassis, like a metal piece that you put your components in. So they were really advanced, and they got themselves up. By the 80s, they were opening banks in America. They were investing in artwork. But you know, I'll tell you, they are a closed society. They're a closed society. They have a lot of things there they don't. They make some very good cars there, like Rolls Royces, like Toyota makes them, and they don't sell them outside of Japan. They don't want them going anywhere. They want to. I don't know why. They the watch companies like Casio, particularly, has special watches they make in Japan, which is supposed to be at a higher quality than the ones made in Taiwan or China. And they just try to sell those in Japan. And yeah, they do weird things. They're like, they have places in Japan like eBay, okay? And they don't want to ship outside of Japan. They don't want to do business with the world. Okay? I mean, they do. They want to sell things to you, but they don't really want to interact with you. Okay? They take on the ways of the world. These Japanese businessmen go overseas, they play golf a lot. That's not a Japanese traditional game, you know? They're not nice to people anymore. You know, I don't know if they ever were nice. I knew Japanese people that were nice, individuals in America that were nice. I was never in Japan. But they need to learn English in Japan to do commerce. Now, some of them also are going to learn Spanish because they're going to do commerce from Mexico to Argentina. That's a huge market. for Toyota, Datsun, Honda, all of that stuff, right? Suzuki, so they learn, they'll go to school for a few years and learn good enough Japanese to be conversant with people in Spanish-speaking countries, right? They'll also learn European languages too. Um, but in most of the Europe settings, if they got English, they're good, you know. And I imagine some of them learn Russian and so forth. Are there any that come to Israel and know Hebrew? I don't know. They do sell Japanese cars, a lot of them in Israel, but I expect they are using English here. I'm expecting that. But they're not nice. They're not nice. They're very volatile. They can be very nasty. Look, they bring people into Japan to teach Japanese to the people. Now, let me explain how this works. The person that comes in can be American or British. It depends which version of English they want to learn with the accent and stuff. Normally, it'll be American English. It wouldn't be Aussie or New Zealand or UK. It would be American. And they call the person from America that's there for English a monkey. That's right. They're called a monkey. And they have a class, and they have a Japanese teacher in the class teaching them English, and the monkey stands there with the Japanese teacher in the front of the room. Maybe they sit down at a desk in the front of the classroom, I don't know. And what goes on? Well, the Japanese teacher gets a little confused about something, and let's say they come across the word, let's pick a word, aquarium. Now, they don't maybe know how to pronounce it, so they may think it's aquarium or aquarium or something like that, right? So they go to the monkey and they say, how do you pronounce this word? And the monkey says aquarium. And they say, okay. And then they'll, be talking about another thing, and they say, well, when you want to buy popcorn in the movies, how would you say it? You say, and the monkey would say, well, I'd like a bag of popcorn with butter, please. And then, stuff like that. So that's what they use the monkey for. Because they don't know the real application of the English and how it's used and stuff like that. And, this is what they do. Okay? They're a rather advanced race of people. They make, excellent cars. They make excellent, inexpensive watches, Seiko, Citizen, Casio. They make excellent cameras, excellent televisions, excellent computers, excellent cell phones. I mean, they make a lot of stuff really good. Did I ever come across a pistol or a rifle or a shotgun made in Japan? No, never, except old World War II surplus, which was junk. So no, I never came across that. They make great knives. They make a lot of things really well. They make, this isn't for us, but they make denim. People that are rich idiots won't buy Levi's or a high-end Levi. They want more exotic denim. So Japan has more exotic denim. So they'll sell you a pair of blue jeans with more exotic denim in it for $300 to $1,200. And these people in Japan go out and buy it so they can show everybody they got really unbelievably great denim. Why the heck don't they just go buy Wranglers for $23, and instead of buying a pair for let's say $600, just buy 3 pairs of Wranglers as soon as you see them getting worn, throw them away. I don't understand. What do you want to buy that quality for? I don't get it. How much better could denim be, for crying out loud? It's not bulletproof. It's denim. I mean, they do that with leather jackets and many different things. Um, they like wearing very expensive sunglasses, Cartier and stuff like that. We're talking $2,000, $1,500 sunglasses. And yet they live in little houses, little apartments, tiny places. Like if you have 400 square feet apartment, that would be a pretty nice apartment in Japan. And you might have a family with 1 or 2 children living in there, 400 square feet. They still sleep on the floor with the mats. They got the bed kind of things, and they got good food. They know a lot about food, but they don't have much room for foreigners living there. Very slight. They have vending machine technology there that's reached a level that the other rest of the world really never reached, as far as I know. The people fill the machines up with food, and they got ways to keep the food hot. They fill it every day. So people, of course, they're working. They'll go eat a meal at the vending machine. Um, and that's actually not vending machine food. It's like real food. Weird. Uh, it's just weird how they do it. I mean, they really got it to a science. I don't know any other country that does anything like that. Uh, you see machines in a lot of countries that'll deliver a sandwich. Like a bologna and egg sandwich or something like that. But they got hot meals. Don't know how they do it. Also, they got 7-Eleven kind of stores. You go in there and you got meals, and they put it in a microwave or something, and they get it. But these are not garbage meals. They're really good meals. I don't quite get it myself, but it'd be interesting to experience it, right? Uh, no, they got decent food. They're dedicated to their job. They get a job as a young person in the company, and they work for that company their whole life, and they throw everything into it because that's their future, and that's their pension and their retirement and their everything. So, you know, even if they work for the FedEx franchise, that's for their life. They throw themselves into this. You know, there's others that, the ones that are working on FedEx probably didn't go to the university. Others go to the university, get an engineering degree, get a business degree, get this, get that. I understand that doctors are pretty good. Years ago, I knew, you see, in America and most countries of the world, there's a lot of infections people pick up in the operating rooms. When they clean the operating room from one patient to another, what they usually do is they use a quaternary disinfectant, and they get all the countertops wiped down. The nurses do this. And they wipe the operating bed that the surgery takes place on. They really clean that. They clean the light in case something got on the light, the glass cover for the light, and the handles for the light to move it around. They clean that. What the Japanese did is they came up with the operating room. they have an aluminum type insulated puffy aluminum thing that goes in the operating room, which is small, and it covers the ceiling, the walls, and the floor. So after the surgery, yeah, they scrub the operating room bed, the thing that the person lies on for the surgery. They clean that up. They clean, any of the furniture in there up, and then they take they take the first thing they do is they take the whole insert lining the whole operating room out and throw it away, and they put a new one in, and before they put the new one in, they wipe everything off, so the new one's sterile, so their infection rate very, very low. The other problem you have with infection rates is the germs float around in the air and they go up into the air ducts where the air conditioning and heat comes out, and they don't clean those air ducts, and then the air blows the germs back in. That's a heavy jet. It's slow. I don't know what it's doing. That's not a normal fighter jet. That's something different, like a C-17 or a cargo plane or something. I don't know what it's doing back here. Maybe it's traveling. I don't know. It could be traveling to Haifa or something that came over us. I don't know. Nothing to worry about. So they really made innovations. So did anybody copy their approach to the operating rooms? No, they don't care. It probably costs $300, $400, $500 for one of those linings, and they don't want to do it. Instead, they pay for the fixing the people, and old people go in and get infections and die from them. The operating rooms are generally not as clean as you might think. They almost never clean the ceilings, or they don't even clean the walls. They're not very good. The Japanese are way ahead of that, They have a lot of problems with their culture. People don't want to reproduce and have babies. They have criminals there, the Yakuza, that are sort of like an accepted way of life, and the government tolerates them as best I can tell. There probably is a Satan bot organization. They got, I think, a very harsh, punitive judicial system. And their prisons are heavily involved in re-education, like brainwashing. People tend to not want to break the laws. They're pretty honest with each other. They don't usually scam each other too much and fraud each other that much and stuff like that. They're pretty calm and honest with other people. They're other countrymen. I don't believe that many people carry guns in Japan. I don't know if they could carry knives or anything like that. Swords, they want those registered. Martial arts is huge for the people living in Japan. But they don't seem to be killing each other very often at all. And there's definitely rich elite Satan bots there. They like alcohol, they like getting drunk. When they don't like somebody at work and the person's worked there for 19 years or something like that, it's not right for them to fire the person, because it sends a message out: you can't work for this company because he worked here 18, 19 years and they fired him. So then you're not going to get loyal workers. So what they do is they take the guy and they give him a desk by a window, and they don't give him any work to do. He got to go to work to get paid, so he comes in the morning and he just sits there all day and stares out the window. What kind of people are these, you know? They don't get along with the Chinese. They really are hateful towards each other. But yeah, the Japanese are a bunch of very unusual people. But there are a lot of really nice ones that, you know, that you can meet really nice Japanese people in other countries. They really can be nice, and, you know. Okay, we were on the fuel crisis. Let's see if this. China has banned fuel exports, sitting on reserves, but airlines are already cutting flights back, so it's starting to hurt China. Thailand, government, WFH, I don't know what that is, probably a type of oil, but I don't know. Mandated AC temperature floors set. Okay, so they're telling people, like, instead of setting your AC at 70, maybe set it at 75 or something like that. Oil tax cuts planned, so that's to help them afford the gas. Malaysia, fixed fuel price costs RM 4 billion, so their money is called something, renminbi. I don't know what their money's called, an RM. It's costing them 4 billion a month to subsidize the fuel prices. Australia, fuel excise half, so that's a tax, an excise tax. They cut it in half. Citizens urged to leave fuel for farmers and miners only. Ireland, 505 million euros emergency package after fuel protests shut down major roads for a week. Egypt, restaurants shut at 9 p.m. Government vehicles fuel allowance cut by a third. They're just beginning to go through the motions when you see that. Kenya, fuel protests erupted. Petrol VAT cut from 16% to 8%, so they cut the tax in half. Zimbabwe, the old Rhodesia, fuel import taxes scrapped. So they got rid of the taxes. Ethanol blend in petrol raised from 5% to 20%, so they're putting more ethanol in. 60 countries nearly 200 emergency policies in 2 months. The IEA called the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. It's getting worse. You're looking at today your barrel prices for the paper, the futures is I think WTI is around 101 and the Brent around 106. Nothing spectacular. Gold and silver staying about the same. They got to have little movements so that people can keep trading and keep the brokers in business. So they do that. They have no markets that are not manipulated. Anything that they have that they're going to open up for trading is going to, they're able to manipulate it or they wouldn't have it. They're not stupid. They're crooked. Satan bots. The United States cleared advanced rocket systems for Israel. Qatar is an 8.6 billion arms package. Oh, I think Israel's counted in that 8.6 billion also. State Department clears parallel sales of 10,000 laser guided APKWS systems to Israel. Maybe that's what it was, Israel. I'm not sure. They worded it badly. And Qatar, part of Malta. Yeah, Qatar's in there too. I guess the two of us are just lumped together in that 8.6 billion. We don't have precision breakdown yet. Regional arms package also includes Patriot missiles for Doha, which is Qatar. So they need those Patriot missiles for their air defense systems. The Iranians are demanding the removal of all U.S. military forces, an end to fighting on all fronts, including in Lebanon, yeah, right, and control of the Straits of Hormuz. Yeah, I mean, Trump's not going for this. Israel is preparing for renewed fighting. Um, talking about burning um, the houses in South Lebanon. The Israelis are saying that the army started with Bar Omer or Omer early. That's some made-up holiday they made. That's not in the Bible where they got to burn wood. But the houses are probably not much wood. But I don't know what's going on. But okay. Just looking at email here, see if I got anything. Somebody wants a prayer request or something. I'm not seeing it though. No. Okay. Now I'm going to go to Bible with you. Um, oh, one other thing I didn't put out there that I should. Uh, the Iranians are using their go-fast boats in swarms all over the Straits of Hormuz to try to control things, plant mines, harass boats, seize boats, stuff like this. Okay. Um, let's do a little spiritual warfare thing. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, I don't pray, um, I loose off every person anywhere, any witchcraft or sorcery designed to make that person not understand, know, follow, walk in the true gospel. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree with that if you like. As a believer. Okay. We hear all these churchianity people. Oh, well, he's a great prayer warrior. This is a prayer warrior, and a prayer warrior, and a prayer warrior. We're prayer warriors and prayer warfare and all this stuff. Do you ever read anywhere in the Bible anything with words to the effect of a prayer warrior? No, you don't. Am I saying that you shouldn't pray? No. No, that's not anything that I would ever tell you. But you're not okay. You're not you're not doing spiritual warfare with prayer. You're doing prayer. Is prayer bad or evil or no good or no, nothing like that. But they're confusing people and making them think they're doing spiritual warfare when they're not. And that means we need to understand the keys of the kingdom, which is never taught. You ever, read about, or go to these buildings that, they don't teach the keys to the kingdom. They don't want you to know it. That's why they don't teach it. If they wanted you to know it, they would teach it. Isn't that rather plain? Okay. Matthew 16, verse 19. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. I don't hear them teaching people this. We not only teach it, we do it. I just did it. Why are my numbers of views going down after we've started, loosing off of everybody, me and my wife and all the true believers and their households and families, and all witchcraft or spells, and we're loosing it off them of no value, no effect forever. See, this is how we can move forward in a great way, by just keeping all of us like that. But we also have to stop them from stopping other people, which we just did. Stopping, in other words, from dragging other people down away from this. Okay? Matthew 18:18. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever you shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Okay, loose means you free it. Bind means you stop it. You say this can't be done anymore. You stop it. Okay, everything has to be in the name of Yeshua. You understand? And when two or more of you agree, it shall be done on earth agree, it shall be done by my Father in heaven. So it's always going to make things stronger if you get other true believers to agree. That's what I get out of it. That's how I interpret it. Does that mean if enough of us agree we could do something that goes against God's will? No. Everything has to be in line with his will or it ain't working. Mark 16:17. And these signs shall follow them that believe in my name. Shall they cast out devils? They shall speak with new tongues. In my name, they shall cast out devils. Do we hear them doing this in the buildings from 9 to 11 in the morning on Sunday? No. No. Do we hear them binding and loosing, working the keys of the kingdom? No. No. You want to go to places like that? What's wrong with you? Why? Why do you want to go there? You don't like waging war against the demons? Obviously, the leaders in these buildings that have meetings from 9 to 11 on Sunday don't want to make war against the demons, do they? I rest my case. If you can't figure out why that is, ask the Lord. Okay? Go to Him. Say, what's wrong with these churches, Lord? Are they real? Are they really following you? What's wrong? Do it. Go to the Lord. Don't go to me. Go to the Lord with it. Please. I'm going to get a prayer out for us. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers and our families and households. I pray for us that, well, let me do this differently. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for me and my wife and the true believers and their households, that we would have your strength, stamina, and endurance from you, and we would have your healing and recuperative power flow through us, healing everything that needs to be healed. And for our animals and pets, we'd all be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And we would pray for the peace of Yerushalayim, and I pray to be able to do better videos. I pray for all of us to know the Bible better. And I pray for those of us that need work, that we find work, good employment, at a good rate of pay. B'Shem, and I also pray for those that are self-employed and they need clients and customers, that they find these clients and customers. Okay? And I pray that we all have adequate finances and then some extra. I pray that we increase our ranks and have more people that know the true gospel, that will work with spiritual warfare and the keys of the kingdom. I pray more come. We increase our size. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And please, if you're a believer, consider agreeing with this. Okay? Now some spiritual warfare. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I loose off of all, or for me and my wife, all the true believers and their households and their families, any and all witchcrafts or sorcery. It's all cast off. It's loosed off, taken off, no value, no effect forever, never to return again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay? And I like doing this, and I used to say, and I command all the unclean spirits that were, had a hand in this to come out of the person you're in now. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. But I stopped doing that because then they know something's wrong and they try to replace the witchcraft. So just get rid of the witchcraft and not bother tossing them, and they don't know that the witchcraft is gone. I don't believe they can tell. Unless they're really close with the person, then they could probably tell. But, okay. now for the families. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for the families. Well, I pray for me and my wife, all the true believers, our households, and our families. If any should have any demons in them, I command such demons to depart from all these people immediately and never return unto these people again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And that, you can agree with this, and that's in case in your family you got somebody that got a demon. See, the unclean spirits will go to work on your friends, your family, your neighbors, your co-workers, anything and everything to keep you isolated. Once they realize you're in the true gospel for real and you understand spiritual warfare for real, and you're not afraid of them, well, then they're afraid of you. So they go after the people they can and they try to isolate you and make life harder for you. So we just use the keys of the kingdom and get more and more people in the true gospel, and then it just becomes more and more ridiculously impossible for Satan the schmuck to keep going effectively. But that's the way I'm looking at it. All right, so we got some stuff done today, and I hope you got something out of this. Again, remember, it's important to watch. This is prophecy fulfillment, and I think when this Iran thing is over, we may see Yemen get it, which is called Edom in Jeremiah 49, up higher up towards the top. Or maybe not right away, but I think after Trump finishes off Iran, which is what it looks like he's going to do with other people, they're going to get it over there. America's going to get it. Daughter of Babylon, kaput time comes. And that will, now I don't know how long that'll take, and that will lead into the appearing. Then the second Exodus. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.